The 2020 National Hill Climb Championships will see a record number of entrants do battle for the title on Streatley Hill in Berkshire in the southeast of England. As we ride on board with Reading CC's James Scrivener, let's look at the course in a little more detail. Streatley lies on the banks of the River Thames, with a bridge linking directly to Goring in Oxfordshire on the opposite side of the river. The Ridgeway long-distance path passes through the village, which borders the Berkshire Downs, an area of outstanding natural beauty. The Championships course is a short, sharp ascent, well known to local cyclists and featured in Simon Warren's book 100 Greatest Hill Climbs. Much shorter then than the 2019 Championship course at Haytor in Devon. In fact, Streatley Hill is similar in profile, although not quite as steep, as another famous ascent, that of Ramsbottom Rake in Lancashire. Like the Rake, it's a course for the powerful, explosive climber. The start line is just after the Bull Public House and features an initial section of relatively gentle gradients before quickly steepling upwards. Over the total race distance of 0.8 of a kilometre, the competitors will gain almost 100 metres in elevation at an average gradient of 13%. It's vital that the riders judge their effort and don't go too hard in the opening metres, as very quickly the gradient steepens and the climb could turn out to be longer than they expect. The tree-line route offers shelter from the prevailing westerly headwind, so this will be less of a factor than on an exposed course, such as Peroyd Lane in Sheffield, which last hosted the championships in 2018. As the road rears upwards, the toughest section comes towards the middle, with a maximum gradient of over 25%. The road surface becomes a little rougher too, and it'll be more of a challenge to find the smoothest line. At least other traffic won't be a problem, as the National Championships will enjoy a completely closed road. But with the competitors starting at 30-second intervals, there's a very real prospect of catching a slower rider ahead. The current course records are 2 minutes 12 for the men and 2 minutes 54 for the women. The youth and junior riders get the competition underway at 10 AM, and the last rider is due to take the start at just before 25 minutes past 2. In the last 100 metres, as sight of the finish line beckons, the tree line opens and the gradient finally eases. Even the most exhausted rider should be able to spin past the timekeeper and continue on back to the headquarters, anxious to find out their time and whether they've earned the title of National Champion. The 2020 National Hill Climb Championships are promoted on behalf of Cycling Time Trials by Reading Cycling Club and sponsored by Irwin Mitchell Solicitors.
I'm Gemma Wilkes and I'm excited to be riding the National Hill Climb Championships for the first time, after feeling empowered to enter because of the number of other women doing this event. In the hope of encouraging more women to give competitive cycling a go, I'm making a film giving an insight into the sport. Please follow my Facebook page, Over the Hill Documentary, to find out more as things progress. If you feel you have something to contribute, please get in contact, as I'm keen to represent different opinions and experiences. Thank you.
So on the climb now with Kevin Rain of myhillcycling.co.uk. Further up, we've got a couple more riders here coming into view. Careful perusal of the start sheet at the side of the road there from one of our race followers. And the man who's surmounting the climb now. Here's number 109, that is Richard Burt of the Solihull CC, keen hill climb competitor. Raced all over the country, ridden the last 3 national championships. Could be a challenger in the veteran 65 plus age category. If you do get the odd pause in our picture, by the way, just forgive us for that. We're battling with the technology here at the top of the hill to bring you these live pictures. The tree cover not helping that, but sometimes. But number 106 is underway. This is Tim Strang from Club Seclio Caron. And looking back down the climb as well, you can see how hard this is. It really does ramp up. The middle section of this climb is the steepest, up to 25% gradient. The ironic sign on the left of your picture advising motorists to keep in low gear on the way down. Well, the riders are keeping in low gear on the way up, I'll tell you. And absolutely giving their all to bring out the best performances that they can in these national championships. Here's our next rider coming into view. That's number 113. That's Vince Ellis, a newcomer to hill climbing this year at the age of 64. Rode the University of Bristol event and also the 7RC event recently, looking for a sub 4 minute time for him today. A couple of riders coming together here on the climb, starting at 30-second intervals, but those gaps can be foreclosed on the ascent. It's only 800 metres, but it's incredibly steep, as you would expect for a course for a National Hill Climb Championship, of course. Here's our next man gritting his teeth on the way up. This is number 129. It's Lee Mustoe of the Minehead Cycling Club. One of the organisers of the club event, actually. Rode a personal best on the climb this year in his club event. Man in white and green here, coming into view as well. Just riding through our camera is Tim Phillips of Team Catenary. Keen time trialist on the flat, but turned his attention to hill climbs this year. Finished 11th vet in the Bolsover and District CC hill climb. And just waiting for our pictures to settle down while we look who else is making the way up the climb of Streatley Hill. This is our live coverage of the RTTTC National Hill Climb Championships for 2020. We are at Streatley Hill here in Berkshire. Little village just on the fringe of the Berkshire Downs. And this event promoted by the Reading Cycling Club and sponsored by Irwin Mitchell Solicitors. There we go, got our pictures back, and here is just in time to see this rider coming up towards the top part of the climb. He's in the full width of the road here, trying to get every possible advantage he can, just picking the smoothest route towards the finish line. Number 131 on your picture is Michael Knowles of the VC Venter. Another rider perhaps better known for his flatter time trialling prowess, but 10th vet in the Newbury Velo Walbury event this year. Head on shot of number 132. This is Alistair Merrill of VC10. Finished in 6th and 7th places respectively in veterinary categories and events this year. That's a summary of our results screen as we're seeing it here in the commentary position. You can just see the finishes so far in the bottom right hand corner. Meanwhile, back at the start line, number 139 gets ready to go. This is Philip Wilkinson in the colours of the Rockingham Forest Wheelers. Riders starting one each side of the road, 30-second intervals. It makes it easier to get the riders away without any rushing to get onto the start line. So great organisation here from the Reading CC. They have thought through the organisation of these championships, and despite the trials of COVID-19, putting on a great event so far today. We've already seen a hotly contested junior men's and women's time trials up this hill climb earlier today. Some worthy winners in that one, but we're focusing on the men at the moment. Number 142 is in the start line now. This is Nick Burton of the Newark Castle CC, regular competitor in the climbs around the Peak District, which has got quite a few uphill ascents, as you probably imagine. Competed in the 2018 Nationals at Peroyd Lane, just outside Sheffield. Time of 3:51.2 on that occasion. Similar sort of climb here today. Short, sharp, requiring maximum effort right from the get-go, but pacing yourself so you've got something in reserve to get you to the finish. The flattest bit, the only flat bit, is within about 20 metres of the finish line, just as it goes over the peak of the climb. Flattens out past our commentary position, and the riders can almost roll past the timekeeper underneath the finishing gantry. Just waiting to see the next view of a rider coming up. One or two gaps in the field inevitably due to the current situation we all find ourselves in. Riders not able to make the trip here to Berkshire to compete, having entered probably some months before. But this rider is certainly going well, riding right up the middle of the road there, almost following the white line as he comes up into our camera shot. And the other thing that of course is different for the National Hill Climb Championships this year, was unable to cater for spectators on the climb. Just one or two people dotted around, photographers and people who've come along with riders to help them. But the normal atmosphere that you would expect at a hill climb championship is slightly absent. But rider's making the best of it, of course, just grateful for the opportunity to compete here. As he goes through the picture, well, this is hard work, isn't it? Well, this looks like the rider from Rockingham Forest Wheelers we saw at the start a few moments ago. That's Philip Wilkinson. He is actually going faster than our slightly frozen picture would suggest, but perhaps not enjoying the conditions here this morning. Although in fairness, it's pretty dry now. Had some heavy overnight rain. And of course the falling leaves at this time of the year can make it a little difficult under wheel if the rain were to come down. The forecast for later in the day is for it to be wetter, perhaps for the women's race beginning at 1:30, but at the moment it's dry. The sun breaking through the trees here as Jeff Ware of the Minehead Cycling Club, legendary Somerset hill climber, famous for competing in a checked shirt and shorts, which he is resplendent in today. So arguably the best dressed competitor of the competition here this morning. Let's see if that translates into a good time. Meanwhile, we're further up the climb as we watch, still toiling towards the finish line here, Philip Wilkinson of the Rockingham Forest Wheelers. And he's just about to complete his ride. There we go. So well done to the man from the Rockingham Forest, Philip Wilkinson. 3:54.3 is his finish time. Back down the climb, just approaching the ironic keep in low gear sign at the left hand side of the road, which rider actually won't see because it's pointing the other way. The man riding here, it's favouring flat handlebars. Most riders using what you call conventional drop handlebars, but got flatter handlebars here. Help him keep that wide open chest there to gulp in the air as he goes up the climb. That's number 142, Nick Burton. On the start line, number 148, ready to go, Pablo Coppo from the Kenilworth Wheelers. Another hill climb newcomer. Got lots of new riders today who've not competed in the national championships before. Ridden his local Newbury Velo and Berkhamsted CC events this season, and he is underway as well. First couple of pedal revolutions before the gradient really does kick in around that first left hand you see just ahead of him here. Number 149, Mark Shepard of Sports Test Racing Team. He's ready to get underway as well. There he goes. Competed in 6 hill climbs this season. Finished top 3 in the veterinary vets competitions and the Halifax Wheelers and the Solihull CC events. Pink and grey colours of next rider in shot here. That's number 150, Graham Stent of the Newbury Velo. Finished 7th vet in his local Newbury Velo hill climb this year. 154 away from the line is Simon Warren of the Norwood Paragon. Of course, this is the man who wrote the book we referenced earlier, the 100 Great Hill Climbs, and it includes this climb here of Streatley, number 24 in the series in the book. I think if you check that one out, well worth a read. Speaking of books, by the way, the other one that I would certainly commend to you, I was fortunate to receive a copy of this during the run-up to the event. It's called A Corinthian Endeavour, written by Paul Jones, and it gives the whole history of the National Hill Climb Championships. Great book. You can find it on Amazon and no doubt at your local bookshop as well. It's published in recent years and really worthwhile read. I do recommend that one. Next on the climb, Graham Martin, Banbury Star Cyclist Club, 5th vet in this year's Ilkeston Holly Lane climb. Off he goes. By the way, if you're wondering why the riders have a flashing red light on the back of the bike, it's actually required under cycling time trial regulations. So he disappears out of our view on the start line around the first corner. Meanwhile, the next rider lining up and ready to go is Peter Norris of Cycle Sport South Hams. Strong performance, finishes first vet in both the Widdicombe and Jennycliff hill climbs in Devon this season. Could be a contender in the Vets 45 prize here today. Waiting to see him depart from the start line. Timekeepers keeping a very careful eye both on the watch and the start list. As with all events of this nature, very dependent on the support of the promoting club and the volunteers to make sure it happens. Reading CC are the club behind this one, ably supported by the Didcot Phoenix Cycling Club as well. So again, our picture just freezing a little bit here on the start line, but final 30-second countdown here for Peter Norris before he gets underway. Further up the climb, number 152, this is Barry McDonald of 3T Racing, heading towards the finish line shortly. Finished first vet in this year's Halifax Wheelers hill climb. looking back down from the finish line here. See the road just curls around the final left-hander, and that is the point at which it does eventually flatten out. The riders finishing under the live event stream gantry here. Again, a little freeze in our picture, for which I do apologise, but I assure you the riders are on approach, and we'll be looking out for the next rider coming up the climb in just a couple of moments' time. View of our commentary position there, and the relative comfort of our gazebo here by the finish line. There's number 159 on the start line, Carl Norris, who we saw waiting to get underway. And next two riders, 162 and 163. 162 is Robert West of Aero Coach. 163 is Graham Wardale of the South Shields Velo Cycling Club. West, based in Oxford, just across the River Thames here. Former Masters National Champion on the track for individual pursuit and point race, if I remember correctly. So turning his attention from the velodrome to the hill climb here as he gets underway. Robert West. Graham Wardale will be next man to go at 30 seconds after him. Regular competitor in Northumberland hill climbs, finished second vet in 3 climbs in this short hill climb season. As always, rounds off the racing on the road before we head into the winter. It's been a strange year, of course, for everybody this year, the pandemic, but it's great to see a national championship being contested here on Streatley Hill for the CTT National Hill Climb Championships. We're in the midst of competition for the senior and veteran men. And off up the road goes Graham Wardale. Back on the start line, number 164 for Mark Arnold of the VTTA East Anglia Group. Former national 12-hour champion. So a whole different proposition for the short, sharp effort required for the hill climb. He's competing in the veteran 45s category. Away he goes. Getting into his pedalling style, out of the saddle. Some riders will try and ride the whole distance or as much as they can remaining seated. Others will use the opportunity to get out of the saddle and really stamp on those pedals to produce the maximum effort they can. Danny Lake is the next rider away here. He's president of the 360 VRT, who got plenty of representation here in these national championships today. Many podium finishes for him in hill climbs in the southwest region in recent years. V40 runner-up in last year's urban hill climb event. Struggled with a back injury earlier this season, but on the road to recovery now, so let's see how he goes as he disappears from our view here at the start line. The word Bristol on the back of the jersey from Phil Stonelake, Bristol Road Club rider. We'll see a very good performance here from Phil Stonelake, I think. He's a very strong rider indeed. He's the holder of the British Everesting record on the Crowcombe climb, and he held it for 15 days before it was bettered, but showing his hill climbing prowess. And certainly a favourite for the Vets 45 prize in the Nationals here this year. We could well see him take top slot in the leaderboard in these early stages. Remember, we've got a total of 265 potential starters here. As number 167 rolls away from the line, this is Dan Fowler of the High Wycombe CC. 62nd rider to take the start. The number, of course, are in sequence right from the start of the junior and youth riders earlier today, so there's not 167 men gone so far, just 63 of them. Number 179, back down here on the start line. This is Tom Haynes of East London Velo. Prolific hill climber in recent years is Tom. Best place finish this year was second vet in the Sussex CA's Staining Bostel hill climb. And further up the ascent, going through our pictures, Oliver Pigeon, flying up the hill for the myhillcycling.co.uk. Another hill climb newcomer, fourth vet in the Dursley hill climb so far this season. Some conversation going on amongst the scattering of spectators on the climb. As we see our next rider coming into view, just coming over what is the toughest part of the climb, the almost 25% gradient in the middle section. Meanwhile, back down at the start line, number 181, Nick Morgan of the Hitchin Nomad CC, second vet in this year's Newbury Velo Walbury hill climb, and first vet just last week at the Berkhamsted hill climb, so he's in good form. The man in the white and black colours, if white and black are technically colours, I think they are. There he goes, out of the saddle start for him, getting that gear turning. Number 183 next to go, Paul Hamlet of the AS Test team. Local rider, finished 15th overall and third vet in the Minehead's Portlock Toll hill climb this year. He's getting into his rhythm. You see he's favouring a seated departure from the line rather than out of the saddle. All kinds of different techniques, but who's to say which is the more effective? 184, this is James Dent of Team PB Performance. Only ridden in one hill climb previously. It was the aforementioned Minehead Portlock Toll Road climb, which is a much longer climb than this one. Finished 11th overall and second vet on that occasion. Dancing on the pedals as he heads to the first left turn, which will take him out of view of the start line. Get a little bit of a freeze in our picture. He's actually going faster than that looks. Around the corner he goes. Back down to the start, and number 186, Dave Mitchison of CC Ashwell, finished 11th overall at the Monsell Head Hill Climb back in 2018. No significant results to report since that, but could be a contender in the Veterans 40 competition. That's number 186 on the right-hand side of the start line, Dave Mitchison. Charles Salt will follow him at 30 seconds, Islington Cycling Club rider. Won the Veterans 40 category in the Urban Hill Climb last year, did Charles Salt. As we see the departure of Dave Mitchison. Off he goes up the climb. And further up the hill, as one of our photographers toils up the climb, waiting to catch the images of the riders as they come up. Sun continuing to shine. And at the start line now, number 187, this is Charles Salt, we mentioned a few moments ago. So Charles quickly seated as he departs from the start line as well. And we're still in the early part of the field here. Still plenty of riders yet to come. Of course, the favourites ranked towards the end of the field. We mentioned already the defending champion, and the question as to whether he'll be able to take the start today, being a resident of Wales. That, of course, is Ed Laverick. Another rider to certainly keep our eye on will be Andrew Feather, who's been unbeaten so far this year in the 13 events he's ridden. As we watch our next rider depart from the start line. Competition really beginning to hot up here for the various vets prizes on offer. St Ives CC. More hirsute 245, Glen Whittington, Southburn District Wheelers. Cameron Walker's time 3:00.06. Not quite beating the 3 minutes, agonisingly close, just 600th of a second off it. Next rider on the climb towards the finish, and 42 is Peter Fry of Cowley Cycling Club. He translates that form when the road goes uphill. Number 248 you see on the climb as well, Richard Morgan of Barrow Central Wheelers. Made the journey down from the northwest of England. Rode into good finishing position on the 2018 National Championships in Sheffield on P. Royd Lane when he climb for him, and he managed to take a good time on a couple of occasions on that climb. Finished 14th back in 2017, 28th this year on that climb. As we see our next rider away from the start line, this is Xavier Disley of Aero Coach. Well, Xavier Disley, a very well-known time trialist. He's actually the founder of Aero Coach, and he's got a great knowledge of time trialing and hill climbing as well. Sam Harding most recently across the line in 2:50.32 for Harding. Mike Askins in 2:54.51. Glen Whittington finishing for Southburn District in 2:57.45. Just to remind you, the top three, it's still unchanged. Glendower Griffiths in 2:24.84, James Hayward in 2:25.72, and Phil Stonelake in 2:27.20 are still the top three. No one running to challenge them so far. Of the riders who've finished this climb, here comes the next man, number 246. Heading for the finish line is Jake Martin of Velo Club Venter, and he was the good 10 miler. That's somewhat less than 10 miles. He's just 800 metres up Streatley Hill here today. Let's see what time he's doing. We'll confirm his time for you momentarily. Jake Martin, confirmed time of 2:56.31. 2:50. Xavier Disley of Aero Coach, well into his effort now on the climb as our next finisher. That's number 245, and that is Glenn Whittington of Southborough and Distributors. In fact, he's already finished. That's he's finished a few moments ago. Did Glenn Whittington 2:57.45. So number 253 away from the start line. Mark Trevis of Informed Sport LGC. Well past the halfway marker for our next rider. That's the toughest bit over with. The road continues to steeple up towards the top of the climb. The last handful of metres flattens out. Of the University of Reading, president of the University of Reading Cycling Club. So looking to defend the honour of the club. Keen T rider, but his form as a climber is a bit unknown, so we'll see how the president of the University of Reading CC goes. That's away from the start line, Tom Quinlan. Looking for sight of our next rider, Christopher Peach. Meanwhile, has finished for Wilkinson Cycling Club in 2:43.50. This indeed is Xavier Disley now of Aero Coach. Xavier across the line. His time 2:54.87. Alright, won't challenge the top of the leaderboard. Let's see where Xavier lies in the classification. That's 39th place for Christopher Peach, 71st fastest time for Xavier Disley of Aero Coach. Away from the line goes number 256. That is Rory Wells of Tri-20 Triathlon Club. Regular competitor in previous year's competitions. Placed fourth in the 2018 Blazing. And so into his effort. As the saddle here for Mark Trevis of Informed Sport. Behind him is John Blight of Rafa Cycling Club. In fact, ahead of him is John Blight. Looking back down the climb now at Mark Trevis, number 253. He'll be next to finish. John Blight's time was 2:55.83 for Rafa Cycling. Well, they may no longer have a road cycling team at Rafa Cycling Club. Still well represented here in the hill climbing discipline. Mark Trevis's time for Informed Sport was 2:52.21. For 64th place at this stage of the competition. As we look at James Gill here of 360 VRT, with a regular hill climber based in Swindon. Finished 21st in the one of two Swindon hill climb. It was a stage race it was earlier in the year. And similar gradient to Streatley, 2:52. Out of the saddle, some preferring to remain seated for as much time as they can, employing different techniques, but who's to say which is the more favourable. Certainly out of the saddle here as they go through the 2/3 distance. Finish line will be coming into sight for these two riders on your screen now. Still the leader. Challenge 2:22.84 is the time that they are aiming for. Max Fleming was Heading towards the finish for University of Reading at a time of 3:01.68. Tom Quinn on 3:01.76. 2:56 here. There's Rory Wells of the triathlon of 73-degree bicycles is your leader, 2:22.84. James Hayward of Woolwich CC second in 2:25.72. And for Bristol Road Club, Phil Stonelake lies third in 2:27.20. Those are the men to beat still in the top three places. Here comes our next rider heading towards the top part of the climb now, just in the section before the road smooths out towards the finish. And using the full width of the road, the rider just behind him there as we go back down towards the start line. And we see coming through here Luke, Hampshire Road Club, the regular hill climb competitor since back in 2016. He's expected to go into a sub 3-minute ride. Here's another of our hirsute competitors heading towards the finish line, the man who was using the full width of the road. That's the man from Hub Velo, Andrew Wakeling. He's only ridden one hill climb before, but putting a strong time in the Kingston Wheelers Leith Hill climb, finishing 24th out of 88 riders. Kingston Wheelers Leith Hill climb. Leith Hill, of course, figured on the route of the Prudential London Surrey Classic bike race years gone by. Next rider to come towards the finish line here is Matthew Boswell, the Didcot Phoenix, as finally across the line Hub Velo's Andrew Wakeling. Wakeling's time 3:01.26. Tom Kennett in 2:54.79 for Kingston Wheelers. And Nick Munro's time for the Royal Air Force is 2:44.73. Next finisher comes through. And coming up just behind him, number 264, coming towards the finish line, Matt Sumpton of Dulwich Paragon. This hill climb newcomer. Great ride on the Ryber Hill climb last weekend in Matlock, Derbyshire. So maybe later in the start order might have been a good climb. He did a great time last week, expected to go faster than 2:50. Let's see if he does. He has indeed, he has 2:31, a great time there from Matt Sumpton. Will put him into the top 10, 8th fastest time, 2:31.12. Well, he may be new to hill climbing this year, but he's got himself a place in the top 10 already. Can he hang on to it? 8th fastest time for Matt Sumpton in 2:31.12. Here comes our next rider on the climb now. Number 265 is Tom Hazelton of Dulwich Paragon. Second in the University of Oxford hill climb last season. It was a slightly longer climb than Streatley, but again, you'll be aiming to get inside that 3-minute marker. Back view there of number 268, that's Andrew Hastings of the promoting club here, the Reading CC. So he certainly will be very familiar with this climb. It's his debut in the National Championships, but no doubt that he knows the course very well indeed. Number 269 on your screen is Adam Millington of Team PB Performance. And rider with some very impressive performances to his credit. A little further down the hill, well, you can see the effort written all over the face of the next man here as he comes up to get sight of the finish line very shortly. It's 267 Daniel Pink of GS Avanti heading towards the finish line. So the spectators telling me he's nearly there. I think he's probably worked that one out. The finish line won't come soon enough, I can tell you. Meanwhile, back at the start, Sam Westlake of PDQ Cycle Coaching, competitor in the WTTA series, the West District. The Reading CC, the promoting club, is the Reading CC's hill climb champion for the past 4 years. Finished 4th on Streatley, an event last year. Did 36 ascents of this climb in preparation for the National Championships a little while ago. One of which was the film we used to give you our taster video. So it'll be interesting to see James Scrivener's time. It's 2:44.97. That's not bad at all for James Scrivener, the Reading CC's Club Hill Climb champion. Has ridden into what is currently 44th place in the National Championships. Finishing after Scrivener is Daniel Capel-Smith, 62nd place in 2:49.52. A reminder for you, the faster riders, they are seeded on their performances submitted with their entries. Do come towards the end of the ride, and the defending champion, if he takes the start, As the rider is looking to keep the title he won last year on Haytor in Devon, a much longer climb, of course, that one. Ed Laverick will be the last man away if he does take the start. We are seeing now the finish of James Meaden of the Sodbury Cycling Club. Top 10 finishes in the Sodbury and Dursley Hill climbs this year. There's number 282 on the climb, that's Connor Towers of the Army Cycling Club. We've had them all now, we've had the Navy, we've had the Royal Air Force, and now got the Army on the climb. The newcomer, 7 events competed in this year. Hythe Place was 11th. 2 more riders heading up towards the finish line. Still the top 3 unchallenged. In fact, the top 5 has remained pretty much static for a little while here. The man who we see in sight of the finish line here is Toby Nugg of Banbury Star Cyclist Club. Second category road rider. Made his hill climb debut again, finished in 11th place out of 74 riders. This weekend, Toby Nugg has got a time of 227.89. That is going to put him into 4th place. Well, Toby Nugg of the Banbury Star Cyclist. Performance indeed in a time of 2:27.89. Number 285 back down at the start line. This is Charlie Lasalle of the University of Bristol Cycling Club. He's a regular rider in the West District WTTA series. Got the top 10 finishes in the 11 events he's ridden this season. Meanwhile, the stars and stripes, is it, on the jersey here of our man coming towards the finish. Out of sunshine into shadow here for number 281. This is Paul Newsom of Project 51, regular competitor in hill climbs here in the south of England this year. Finished 6th and 9th in Sussex and East Sussex events respectively. He's about to round the final corner. He will see the finish line just ahead of him. Gasping for breath here, just gulping in the air as he comes across the line. His time for Paul Newsom is 2:49.41, 64th place for him. Next man to come across the line will be Connor Towers of the Army Cycling Club. The Cycling Union, in fact, it's technically known. Meanwhile, back down on the start line, it was of NFTO. Former road team a couple of years ago, but still represented in the world of time trialling here at NFTO. That's no longer feeling a team of riders. Top level of road racing. Connor Towers' time for the Army Cycling Union was good enough for 45th place in 2:44.64. Paul Newsom's time, much ahead of him, as we mentioned, for Project 51 with 2:14.41. Good news though, the most recent finish is Toby Nugg, the rider who finished 4 riders ago in only his 2nd hill climb, is currently lying in 4th place in a time of 2:27.89 for his team of Banbury Star Cyclists. So. Good performance indeed for him. John Hunt comes across the line for the Beacon Roads in 2:49.75, 68th spot for him. Final push, the spectators are helpfully informing the rider as he comes within sight of the finish line. As away from the start line goes Daniel Shoebridge of the High Wycombe CC. Strong crit rider, making his hill climb debut here for the National Championships at least. Meanwhile, coming towards the finish line, number 285 is Charlie Lasalle. I mentioned him when we saw him take the start a few moments ago. Several top 10s, 11 rides he's ridden so far this season.
Go, good luck!
The latest mark in the National Championships. We'll find out momentarily. Charlie Asia of Newbury Velo gets away. The rider enjoys the fast and furious world of criterium racing. Now enjoying the fast and furious ascending that characterises hill climbing. We'll glance over at the timekeepers here for number 291 on the start line. That's Jack Freeman of the Muden Pedal Heaven Coal Racing Team. The pale blue colours. And meanwhile, here comes number 286 towards the line. Richard Gorst of the Axe Valley Pedallers. To National Hill Climb. massive ride, finishing third behind Andrew Feather and Josh Boyne recently in the Streatley Hill climb. Looking forward to a good place. The stays of the hill climbing will be into the veterans category next year. Thoughts at the moment with the ride you can do here.
One, go! Good luck!
Course here. The course time is 2:34.64, 22nd place for the man from Axe Valley Pedallers. Sensible performance indeed. Next rider comes through. That's the sign it would pay you not to pay too close attention to for of a sensitive nature. It's got some rather robust wording on it to encourage the riders up towards the finish line. And even the dog joining in here, getting a good view of the riders coming around the corner. Meanwhile, back on the start line, that's Michael Shute of Mid Devon CC. Finished 99th on the climb in his home county of Devon last year of the ascent of Haytor. It's a fearsome climb, Haytor. We've finished the Tour of Britain on 2 occasions up there. Simon Yates, in fact, was the first rider to win the Tour of Britain to the top of Haytor in 2013. The World International Cycle Races. Meanwhile, back in the world of hill climbing, away from the start line goes our next rider. Meanwhile, heading towards the finish. This is Daniel Shoebridge of High Wycombe CC. Black and white colours of Shoebridge, and his time is 2:40.32 for the High Wycombe CC. Here comes our next rider around the corner. This is going to be the Newbury Cycling Club rider heading towards the finish line here. Last few pedal revolutions. It's 2:28.76 for Charlie Ager, picking up 11th place, just outside the top 10. But he was certainly benefiting from the strong support from the Newbury contingent here. Across the line. So he's into 11th place, still the top 3 unchanged. In fact, the only change in the top 4 in the last 10 minutes or so has been that time from Toby Nugg, who took that 4th spot in 2:27.89. Next to finish there is Freeman now. Freeman's time for leading pedal having the Cole racing team. With his time start steady last weekend. His time is up at 18th spot, 2:31.36. Mid-table start position. Fastest for Jack Freeman. And Charlie Ager of Newbury Velo, 11th fastest in 2:28.76. Waiting to see our next rider come around the final bend towards the finish line. Here he comes. This looks like Ben Nicol from the High Wycombe CC. Fairly local rider, another newcomer to hill climb, but he's fast on the climbs. And Ben Wickham's time, he's still 3 seconds, almost 3 seconds faster than the second place man, James Hayward of Woolwich CC. Phil Stonelake third for Bristol Road Club in 2:27.20. Those are the top 3. Meanwhile, on the climb, here comes the next rider coming towards the top of the hardest section of the course. Out of the saddle, gritting his teeth. This is where the climb really does begin to bite into those legs. Even the dog barking in encouragement. You can see the next rider bearing down on him here. That 30-second gap being foreshortened by the chase that's going on here. And he's holding on to his position is Robert McPherson of St Piran. Well, St Piran, team who rely entirely on self-sponsorship, great road team. In fact, looking to join the UCI international level in 2021. I understand they had a great campaign on the road last year. Some great riding from Steve Lampier. The really strong riders in the St Piran squad. But that's Robert McPherson. St Piran actually hosted their own hill climb last weekend on Long Hill. I'm sure Richard Pascoe, the man behind the St Piran team, I've been proud to see his St Piran squad not just riding in races but also putting them on as well, and a good ride there from Robert McPherson of St Piran. 64th place for him at the moment in 2:47.07. Number 302 into the 300s for Adam Baker Another rider representing the Royal Air Force Cycling Association, 30th in this year's National 25 for the men. So he's got the form on the flat. Let's see what his form on the uphill will be like. As we look at our next rider coming towards the finish line here, this is number 299, Andrew Kirby, 73-degree bicycles, 30th in the National Championships in 2018 in Sheffield. And as we look at the riders making their final push to the line here, going through your camera shot, James Bevan of the Army Cycling Union, winner of that event we mentioned down in Cornwall, the St Piran event last weekend. Can he translate that form here into the National Championships? Time for Andrew Kirby of 73-degree bicycles was 2:31.51. That's good enough for a place in the top 11, I think. Top 12, in fact, 2:31.51. Just dropping down the classification now a little bit further. And we're keen to see that time for James Bevan. Oh, well, that's the first time we've seen creep into the top 3, displacing Phil Stonelake out of the top 3 finally. James Bevan of the Army CU has gone to the top of the leaderboard. Not only did he place Phil Stonelake, he's gone to the top of the table. New fastest time, 2:21.41 for James Bevan of Army Cycling Club. What a great ride that was from Bevan. Well, we told you to look out for him. Winner of that St Piran event last weekend, and here he is leading the National Championships with a new fastest time in 2:21.41. Can he hang on to a place at the top of the table inside the top 3? Still plenty of very strong riders to go, including many of the favourites towards the bottom of the start list. Number 302 goes through your picture. That is Adam Baker of the Royal Air Force Cycling Association, 30th in this year's National 25, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. He's within sight of the finish line now. Next rider comes around the middle part of the course where the road twists to the left and to the right. Back on the start line is number 308. The competition really hotting up now here on Streatley Hill as Zachary Harrod. Zach Harrod, as we know him from the Aero Lab Ward Wheels team. It's debut at the National Hill Climb Championship as far as the records show. 30th in this year's National 10 Championship for Zach Harrod. Adam Baker, most recent finish with the Royal Air Force. He's through in 2:39.77, 43rd spot for him. Into the top 10 for Nicholas Latimer of Team Lifting Gear in 2:27.07. Let me recap on the leaderboard for you because it's all changed at the top of the table. Your new leader for the Army Cycling Union is James Bevan in 2:21.41. Displacing the long-time leader from 73-degree bicycles, Glendower Griffiths, down to second place in 2:22.84. James Hayward down to third for Woolwich CC in 2:25.72. And lying fourth is Nicholas Latimer for Team Lifting Gear in 2:27.07. So Latimer just going into that top position, fourth place at the moment. As we look back once again on the slopes of the climb, the rider just going through there is Will Beach of Beeston Cycling Club. Regular top 10 finishes for Will Beach. Finished fourth and third places in the Lincoln Hill Climb. Lincoln's got one or two hills in it, if you're a follower of the Lincoln Grand Prix race. That's climb at Michaelgate. Takes the riders to the finish line just in the shadow of Lincoln Castle and Lincoln Cathedral every year. Well, every year except this year, unfortunately. Hopefully the Lincoln Grand Prix and with the rest of the Premier Road Series back on the road next year. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Meanwhile, looking back down the climb here, waiting the sight of our next finisher. Will Beach's time for Beeston Cycling Club was 2:42.41, and Matt Lawton for the Macclesfield Wheelers into 44th place in 2:39.85. Just a reminder for you, there were 265 riders entered for this Senior Men and Veterans National Hill Climb Championship. There are, I'm sure, one or two gaps in that starting lineup due to the various tiers of lockdown around the UK. Of course, Wales, almost a complete lockdown since Friday, so that would certainly have affecting one or two of the riders who were due to make their way across from Wales to ride here today. No more so, of course, than the defending champion in this senior men's category at Laverick. Don't know if Laverick is a starter or not. We will know that when we see who is on the start line. Meanwhile, though, our next rider coming towards the finish line will be with us shortly here. Zach Harrod's time, 2:37.70, 37th place for Zach Harrod. Matt Lawton's time, 2:39.85 in 45th place. James Bevan, our current leader for the Army Cycling Union, 2:21.41. That's still some way away from the course record held by Cameron Biddle. He'll be getting himself warmed up now as his start time will be approaching very soon. Cameron Biddle took the course record here in 2:12.94 on the 26th of September, so less than a month ago. Next rider on the climb towards the finish will be with us shortly. Seeing his arrival as we look back down to the start. The man here on the start line is Matt McLaren of Vector Cycling in 2:38.86. The time for Jacob Avery is 2:38.17, good enough for 40th place at this stage of the competition. In the start house now is number 318, Jamie Dean of the Welling Wheelers. We really are getting into the final numbers now. The last man away, if he does take the start, will be number 369, the defending champion, Ed Laverick. Before him, one rider before him, 30 seconds before him, is former champion and a hot favourite for today as well, Andrew Feather. Pretty much unbeaten in the races he's ridden so far this year. Tom Bell will go at 367, just 11 minutes past 1, just 30 seconds after another former champion, the 2016 winner. A man we like to call, when he rides the road and criterium circuit around the UK, the happiest man in cycling, Adam Kenway. He's always got a broad smile on his face. Whenever I get the opportunity to chat to Adam at the start of a race, or if we interview him at the finish, he's always smiling as Adam, and he'll be looking for a great performance here. He likes the short, sharp climbs. So through the line goes our next finisher. That's Nick Candy of North Road Cycling Club. 60th place for Nick Candy in 2:42.89. As the saddle here from the man from MI Racing, Newsom, is number 315. Let's come back up the list to remind ourselves it's Matt Clinton, the 2008 champion, 12 years ago. Here he comes, the rider favouring the straight handlebars on this climb. Here he is. Across the line he goes, tops the clock for Matt Clinton of Team Jewson in 2:47.65. That's 80th place. Matt Clinton on the start line, number 321, set to go is Jacques Coates of Team PB Performer, second in the juniors at last year's National Hill Climb on the much longer climb of Hay Tor in Devon. There he is away from the start line, moving up into the senior category this year. Can he repeat his podium performance from last year? Well, while we wait to see if he can, let me tell you we have a new leader, and it is Harry McFarland of Gyro Race Team. He has gone to the top of the leaderboard with a time, would you believe, of 16.69. So the first sub 2:20 time of the national titles here this morning. Harry McFarland of Gyro Race Team in 2:16.69. A great ride indeed from McFarland. Well, that really has laid down the gauntlet for the riders later on in the field here. McFarland, no results to look back on in CTT events, but he rode to a great 10th place finish in the time in London a couple of years ago, back in 2018. That's the best we know of Harry McFarland, but I can tell you now he is our new leader, pushing James Bevan down into second spot. 2:16.69 is the new benchmark to beat here in the senior and veteran men's National Hill Climb Championship. And our next rider on the lower slopes of the climb, just getting away from the start line, is Adam Whitehead of Bristol South Cycling Club. Finished within 10% of the winners' times at the 7RC and University of Bristol Hill Climbs this year. Here's number 319 coming towards the line. This would be Darren Kidson of the Onyx Racing Team. Kidson's time, 2:32.87, 28th spot for him. Jamie Dean, who finished just before him for the Welling Wheelers, is in 2:35.07. Alice Pullinger from Rugby Velo through in 2:34.10. But the big news is our new leader, Harry McFarlane of Giro Race Team, 2:16.99, the time to beat. Next man is coming towards the line now. Number 320 is within sight of the finish line. It's Aaron Cooper of the Furham Wheelers. Another hill climb newcomer, finished in 8th spot in a couple of hill climbs so far this year. In fact, he's only ridden 3. He's finished 8th and 9th so far. Let's see if we can get a top 10 slot here today. Not quite. He's in 32nd spot in 2:34.23 for Aaron Cooper. And of course, the competition a little stiffer here in the national titles. The record number of entrants in both the men and the women. First woman gets away at 1:30. Little break, about 11 or 12 minutes after the last man finishes before the first of the women start. Meanwhile, the next of our finishers comes through, and that's Jacques Coates, finishing 49th spot in 2:39.02 for Coates. Next man with that explicit banner being waved at him at the side of the road. If you're of a sensitive disposition, look away. But here he comes. Meanwhile, number 328 is on the start line. Cameron Richardson of the Road Club Cumbernauld and Kilsyth from up there in Scotland, former Scottish Junior Hill Climb champion, in fact. So he's had a long drive this morning, if he set off from home this morning. Quite a few of the riders have made the journey yesterday. Took the opportunity to get some training in on the hill. I know quite a few were getting the feel for the climb. Yesterday, of course, it favours the local riders who've got great experience of the Streatley Hill climb. Here comes number 329. This is Adam Whitehead from the Bristol South Cycling Club. Mentioned some of his performances a few moments ago, and away from the line goes our next starter, Cameron Richardson, the man from Scotland. Looking back down the hill for the sight of our next man coming towards the line. Adam Whitehead's time was 2:35.58 for Bristol South Cycling Club. Jack Coates from Team PB Performance in 2:39.02. From the Midlands for the Solihull CC, David Fellows approaches the line. Again, a rider who enjoys the longer hill climb. He's had win in hilly time trials and favours events that will take 10 minutes or longer, so the shorter distance may not be one that he particularly looks forward to. 48th place for Fellows in 2:38.45 for the man from the Solihull CC. So the top 3, Harry McFarlane, Giro Race Team, 2:16.94, the only sub 2 minutes 20 ride so far. James Bevan of the Army Cycling Club, 2:21.41, and Glendower Griffiths, a long time the leader, now down to third in 2:22.84, and James Hayward in 4th spot in 2:25.72. That's how the top 4 look as we wait for our next rider to come through. Look back to the start line at number 331 here. This is Daniel Hills. Well, that's a great name for a hill climber, isn't it? From the Sunday Eshap team, winner of last year's Farnham Hill Climb, recently second behind one of the riders who rode well in the junior. In fact, he finished second in the junior competition here today, Matthew Hulberg. But this is Daniel Hills underway. Meanwhile, look at this, out of the saddle. This is where it gets really, really tough, through the hardest part of the climb where the gradient rears up to almost 25%, and it eases just slightly. And where you can see the sun breaking through where the tree line breaks, that's the site of the start line the riders are looking for, the finish line I should say, the riders are looking for. And he's almost there now, be across the line, and we'll be seeing the time coming up on our display in just a moment. Here he is, final corner, and you'll see the finishing gantry as he approaches the line on our live event stream here from the National Hill Climb Championships. Cameron Richardson, the man who's finished. His time was 2:34.64, 33rd place for him. On the climb, Oscar Hutchings of Team Tour 2000, third in the Sodbury Cycle Sport event this year. 3:34 gets ready to start for Spirit Tofasi Racing Team. His first hill climb season this year, 4 podium finishes in Swindon, Basingstoke and Chippenham Hill Climb so far this year. And he is away from the start line now. It's Fraser Carr of Spirits of Foci Racing Team. Meanwhile, heading towards the finish line, Carl Jolly of the University of Bristol Cycling Club, winner of 2 of the long course events down in the south, the Bristol South and the Sudbury Cycle Sport events this year. Well, here he comes, Carl Jolly. Across the line he goes, throwing his bike across the line. Let's see if it was effective. 19th place, just inside the top 20 for Jolly. Jolly good time, you could say, for the man from the University of Bristol Cycling Club. Next to finish will be Daniel Hills of Sunday Ashap. See the time for Hills. He's making his final bid for glory here. Here he comes, number 331. Last out of the saddle effort. Now I'll sit down again, he thinks. And Daniel Hills, 30th place, 2:32.99. You'll be glad to know, in fact the riders more so will be glad to know, that the road back down to the headquarters is pretty much downhill. They go over the top of the climb and continue back to the headquarters, which is about a quarter of a mile away from the start line. You'll be able to find out their time when they get back there. But we've got that information for you here in our live stream. So I hope you're enjoying our live coverage here. First time we brought you live coverage of the National Hill Climb Championships, thanks to our sponsorship from Irwin Mitchell Solicitors. The live stream brought to you by Velo29 and Live Event Stream. As you can see, it's a great day for these national championships. The sun continues to shine. It's relatively mild for the time of year, 8 or 9 degrees out there on the course. And here comes the next man coming up towards the finish line now. And a little bit further up, pale green colours. Looking as comfortable as you can look on a hill climb. Measuring his effort. That's exactly what you need to do. Make sure that you get it all out on the climb, but you do save your effort for the middle part of the course, which is the toughest. That's where the gradient is steepest. Average of 13%, but it gets tougher at the middle and eases out slightly, and then it's a flat finish for the last 2 or 3 metres. But it's a deserved course for the national titles here at Streatley. We're seeing some great rides already. New leader, Charlie McTeer for High Wycombe CC. 2 seconds faster now at the top of the leaderboard for McTeer. 2:14.87 for Charlie McTeer. 5th in the Hill Climb Championship for the competition. 2nd behind Andrew Feather, last year's Kingston Wheelers Hill Climb for McTeer. Well, that gives you indication of the form that one of the favourites, Feather, will have to pull out today here. And that time of McTeer, 2:14.87, is only a couple of seconds shy of the course record. I'm confident we will see a new course record set here at Streatley today. It's only stood for less than a month. It was Cameron Biddle who took that time of 2:12.94 back in September. So Harry McFarlane's down to 2nd spot now in 2:16.94. Oh, look at the face of rider crossing the line there. That was George Spooner from Cambridge University, CC. And George Spooner's time is 2:19.36. That's good enough for 3rd place. Podium position for Spooner, pushing James Bevan out of the top 3. Bevan drops down to 4th for the Army CU. Charlie McTeer, our new leader for High Wycombe CC. Harry McFarlane is 2nd for Gyro Race Team, and George Spooner now goes 3rd for Cambridge University CC. Well, I said that as we saw that side-on shot of Spooner halfway up the climb, he looked relatively comfortable, and that has translated into the 3rd fastest time. Good time too from the man from the Macclesfield Wheelers. He was honing his form in the one and only edition of the Friday Night Manchester Regional Track League. We've managed to get into the resumption, the brief resumption of track racing a couple of weeks ago. Ben Greenwood of the Macclesfield Wheelers. He's across the line in 7th place in 2:22.33. Here's our next man coming towards the finish. Again, gritting his teeth. That's number 340. It's Ricky Ellison of CC Gyro, 4th behind some of the favourites on the Withington Wheelers Hill Climb earlier this year. Finished 4th behind Andy Nichols, Callum Brown and Adam Kenway on the occasion. On this occasion, he's finished in 7th place overall at the moment, in a time of 2:12.82 for Ricky Ellison. Number 345 is off and running. This is Ben Miller of Team Tour 2000. Meanwhile, further up the climb, as we see going through our camera halfway up the climb. Next rider on the start line is Jack O'Brien of the Parley CC. O'Brien, the winner of the event here last year on a multi-stage hill climb event. He won the Streatley climb, rather appropriate as to where we are today here for these national titles. He is off and running. Well, top three, reminding you it's been all changed in the last few finishes. Charlie McTeer, first of all, taking that new fastest time of 2:14.87. Harry McFarlane, 2:16.94, still there in second, and that time of George Spooner from Cambridge University, finishing a few moments ago in 2:19.36. Those are the three riders who've all beaten the 2 minutes 20 marker so far in this National Hill Climb Championship. Still the fastest riders on form are yet to come, so the competition really is hotting up now as we await the finishing of our next rider across the line. Let's see who that will be. The results computer has decided to go to sleep, as computers do from time to time, which is slightly unfortunate at the moment, so we'll do the best we can from the results website, but I'll struggle a little bit to identify the riders crossing the line. We're actually out of view of the finish line at the moment. Fortunately, our computer has managed to resume from its slumbers, so I can tell you nothing more than Ricky Ellison's time so far in 7th spot at 2:21.82. We wait for our next finisher to go across the line. Beginning to build here towards the top of the climb. In fact, to limit the number of spectators allowed on the climb for obvious reasons in these current times we find ourselves in. But here comes number 346, toiling towards the top of his effort here. This is Jack O'Brien from the Parley CC. So some recent finishes for you. Josh Avery finished in 2:28.70, 21st spot for him. Marcus Cramer, Bladen CC, 13th place for Cramer in 2:25.01. And for Team Tour 2000, Ben Miller in 2:21.58. Those are the most recent finishes. Miller easing into the top 10 in 7th spot at the moment. In fact, he'll now move up to 5th place. Just our final confirmation on the timing screen here. We've got a mix of electronic timing, as you'll see from our picture of the finish line, and our manual timekeepers busy scribbling down the times as well. If you want to check out the results as we go along, if you visit mycycleresult.com, you will find the official results there. You'll also find them on the RTTTC website at the conclusion of the competition, but we've got live timing information for you at myresults.com. So check that one out. It's my.results.com on your favourite browser, or indeed I think there's an app you can get for your phone as well for the My Results service. And that will tell you that Charlie McTeer is still the leader in 2:14.87. Harry McFarlane is still second in 2:16.94, and George Spooner is still third in 2:19.36. Here comes number 348. This is Samuel Painter of TBW23 Stuart Hall Cycling, powered by Train Sharp, narrowly beaten in the event here on Streatley last year. Next rider coming towards the line here. This looks like number 348, Samuel Painter, who we saw a few moments ago. 349, Jake Hales will be not too far behind. The riders we see riding in the road and criterium races as well for Spirit Tifosi Racing Team. Jake Hales. Last few pedal revs for Jake as he comes around the final corner and heads towards the line. Jake Hales, number 349. What sort of time will we see from Hales here? 51st place in 2:35.06 for Jake Hales. So no challenge to the leaderboard in indeed the top 10. Next rider through the middle section as we look back down to the start, and number 355 is on the start line. Leon Wright of Race Hub finished in 10th place in last year's championship. He was 5th in 2017 and 6th in 2016. So a prolific time trialist and hill climber, finishes really outside the top 10 in both of the disciplines. So we're expecting potential good things here from the man from Race Hub, Leon Wright, number 355. 251st competitor on the start list. So we're getting towards the final few riders now. We're building towards a real nail-biting climax of this senior men's National Hill Climb title. Already today, Tom Williams, the junior champion, Abby Smith, the junior women's champion. It's not too long before we'll know who the senior men's champion is. And of course, at 1:30, senior and veteran women get underway in the biggest entry ever of women in a National Hill Climb championship. 30% of the field. A lot of work done by the organisers to ensure that women get the very best representation they can in the championships. We'll tell you more about that shortly, but we're focusing now on the next rider coming towards the finish line. Crowd are getting behind him. Will it be a good time? It's number 353. It's Richard Gilday of Didcot Phoenix CC. 9th last year. Let's see what Gilday's time is. Oh, 3rd fastest time on our results computer, confirmed on the score chart. So Didcot Phoenix CC rider Richard Gilday has improved on his performance of last year. At the moment, he was 9th overall last year. He moves into 3rd spot, displacing Cambridge University's George Spooner down to 4th place, 2:19. Now the time for Spooner, but the time for Gilday is 2:18.31. Richard Gilday goes into 3rd place. Harry McFarlane just ahead of him, and our leader is still Charlie McTeer of High Wycombe CC. So here comes our next man on the climb, getting closer and closer to the finish line as the sunlight dapples across the road. It marks just a handful of metres to go to the finish line. This is the ride of Leon Wright of Race Hub. 10th last year. What can he do this year? Crowd are getting behind him. Here comes Wright around the final corner. He will see the finish line just ahead of him, and across the line he goes. The time for Leon Wright into the top 10, in fact into the top 5. Waiting for official confirmation of the time. It is 5th place in 2:20.29 for Leon Wright of Race Hub. Not long to wait for our next finisher. Number 356 is on his way to us. Thomas Arkle of East London Velo. Great form in the Southern Hill Climb calendar this year. 2nd in the Kingston Wheelers event not too long ago. So let's see how that translates here. But Richard Gilday into the top 3, as we saw a few moments ago. Thomas Arkle's time from the East London Velo is 14th for him as he goes across the line. Waiting for our next riders to come through. I'm just looking at the start list, and the news I have to bring you is that the defending champion, as we suspected, will not be able to defend his title. Zaid Laverick is not on the results computer or the start list computer. The last man away will be Andrew Feather, who was the 2018 champion. Before him will go Adam Kenway and Tom Bell. We're into the last few riders now. As we wait the arrival of the next finisher, here he comes. This will be Robert Rogers of Loughborough Student Cycling Club, 4th in Didcot Phoenix event on this climb at the time of 2:24, not too long ago. Robert Rogers is also through the line for Loughborough students in 4th place, 2:18.54. That's pushed George Spooner another place further down the standings. Here comes our next ride. This is looking good here. Heading towards the line, and across he goes. Let's see the time confirmed for Joe Baker. I thought that was good for Spirit to Face Your Racing Team. Joe Baker goes into 2nd spot with a time of 2:16.44. The only rider yet to be beaten is Charlie McTeer, 2:14.87, still tops the leaderboard. 2:16.44 now. The time for Joe Baker moves into 2nd. Harry McFarlane, former leader, down to 3rd in 2:16.94. If you want to get on the podium in the senior men in the National Hill Climb, you need to go faster than 2:16.94 now. These last few riders. Here comes number 300. Oh, just losing our picture in a critical moment. We'll confirm that time for you for the finisher there for Craig Rogers of Cambridge University, 6th fastest in 2:19.24. Let's see who we've got coming towards the finish line now as our next rider goes away from the start. One of those translucent pockets on the back of his jersey that you really can't see the number on, but looking at the finish line, here comes the rider who's within a handful of metres of getting there, and can he make his mark on the top section of the score chart. Matthew Coulson just pushing Craig Rogers down a place. Matthew Coulson goes into 6th place now in 2:18.56. Number 366, that's the familiar figure of Adam Kenway, former champion Adam Kenway for the Vitus Pro cycling team. A road racer, a criterium racer and a hill climb champion is underway. A man who is almost always smiling whenever you see him riding his bike. Will he be smiling at the end of this ascent of Streatley Hill? He starts as one of the hot favourites. He loves the short climbers, Adam Kenway. That was the feature of the course when he took his title back in 2016. Adam Kenway has really been off the podium in recent years. Kenway winning on Bank Road in Matlock in Derbyshire when he took the title. Last year on the longer climb was his worst performance actually in recent years. But the year before, again another short sharp climb on the ascent back in Sheffield. He rode well in that one as well. But Adam Kenway, keep your eye on that red jersey of the man from Vitus Pro Cycling. Meanwhile, on the start line, the number 368 in his back, the last man away in the senior men. This is a real hot favourite. He is the 2018 champion. He is Andrew Feather of Hunt Bikewheels.com. I'm looking at my result card though to tell you that we've got a new leader. Andy Nichols has gone faster, 2:14.67. He is 0.2 of a second faster than Charlie McTeer. Andy Nichols, the new leader. McTeer down to 2nd place. Jude Taylor up into 3rd place for Crimson Orientation Marketing Racing Team. So it's all changed at the top of the leaderboard as the last few riders come through. Andy Nichols, your new leader. The man who finished 6th back in 2018. Always in the top places on shorter and medium length climbs, and once again now he's at the top of the climb here. There's Adam Kenway. Well, will he be smiling as he comes towards the line? The happiest man in cycling is coming towards the top of the climb. Former champion from 2016, Adam Kenway for Vitus Pro Cycling is almost within reaching distance now of the finish line. Let's see what Kenway's time will be. Callum Brown, meanwhile, has gone to the top of the leaderboard, 2:12.14. Callum Brown was the course record holder. No, he wasn't. Cameron Biddle was that. But Callum Brown is the new course record holder in 2:12.94. New fastest time. And Callum Brown. Adam Kenway. Oh, Kenway has shattered that time. 2:08.69. The former champion Adam Kenway at 2:08.69. Is that good enough to take the title? He's not got many challenges left. Andrew Feather is on the climb. Tom Bell is there too. Kenway is at the top of the leaderboard. 2:08.69 for Kenway. Only 2 riders behind him to challenge him to design the opportunity of his 2nd National Hill Climb title for Adam Kenway of Vitus Pro Cycling, who's on the finishing order now. Tom Bell has gone faster. Look at that. 2:05.93 for Tom Bell from High Performance Cycling. Well, Bell has shattered that course record. He shattered Kenway's time. Kenway down to 2nd. Bell, the new leader. Only Feather remains on the course. Andrew Feather, the 2018 champion, will be on his way to the finish line very, very shortly. Here he comes, number 368 on his back. Can he go faster than 2:05.93? He'll need to do that to beat Tom Bell. Yes, he has another new course record. Andrew Feather of HuntBikewheels.com. An average speed of 14.33 miles per hour. Takes the title of National Hill Climb Champion with a time of 2:04.86. Tom Bell of North High Performance gets a time of 2:05.93. 2nd place on the silver medal. Adam Kenway once again gets a place on the National Hill Climb podium. This time it's 3rd place for Vitus Pro Cycling, a time of 2:08.69. Wow, what a great finale to the senior men and veterans National Hill Climb, with that last rider away, saving the best for last, Andrew Feather. Well, I mentioned much earlier in the day, he's been unbeaten in 13 rides so far this year, and once again, that's number 14 now, and his 2nd national title. He took the victory back in 2018. He's done so again. He was 8th last year, but Andrew Feather is your new national champion. Spur of thought for the man who would have been able to defend his title had Wales not been in lockdown. Ed Laverick not able to take the start today. But Andrew Feather started as the 2nd favourite, I would say. In the absence of Laverick, he became the favourite, and he has proven to be so. Your new national champion, a time of 2:04.86, an average speed of 14.33 miles per hour, to bring the title of National Hill Climb Champion to Andrew Feather of HuntBikewheels.com. Phew, well, that was a great competition, and If you've been following along on our live stream here, we sincerely hope you're enjoying. We've had one or two technical trials to bring you the coverage, but hopefully the pictures are good, and hopefully we're relaying some of the atmosphere to you here. And if you've not been able to come along to spectate, of course, in this strangest of years, but hopefully you're benefiting from our live stream. We've got more to come for you when the women get underway. First rider away for the women's competition at 1:30 in just a few minutes' time. In fact, just about 14 minutes' time for the first woman rider away. And this is an opportunity just to mention for the first time, really, in our commentary here today, that there's been an incredible effort made to encourage women to ride the National Hill Climb competition. We've increased the participation from 12% of last year's field to 30% of this year's field. And there's a campaign, hashtag Climb Higher Together. There's a movement that's been started to really push women cycling in general, but in particular that of hill climbing. And Lauren Pestana herself, no mean hill climber, one of our timekeepers today. She's led the women's campaign and resulted in 142 women on the official start list. Not necessarily all will take the start, of course. Some may have been unfortunately unable to join us here due to the lockdown situations across the country. But we're certain to have a great field of riders when the women get underway in just about 15 minutes' time. We'll be bringing you live coverage of every single rider to take the start. And just to remind you, if you have just joined us, you've just missed a great ride by Andrew Feather, taking the national title for the men in a time of 2:04.86.